here inside this toolbox, this is very important that you have the toolbox open. If you don't have it open, at the top just click on view and then click on toolbox. So now, for example, I want to just select the label. So inside this search toolbox here, I can actually search for label, and I can select this label here, and then I can just drag it here, or I can actually just double click on this label, and the label is actually automatically put here at the top left corner here. And now I can just select this label here. If I don't want this label, I can just select it and then press on delete key on my keyboard, right? But let me actually just drag a label here into our view here, into our form actually. So this is our label, right? But as you can see, I cannot actually increase the width and the height of my label. So that's because of the auto resize attribute, auto resize property. So remember that I told you that these labels or these forms are actually, this IDE is actually context sensitive. So if I actually select this label, different kinds of properties are going to appear here, right? So select this label. This is very important. And let's find the auto size property of this label. So here it is, the auto size property. And here, assign the value false. Just click on this little button here and assign the value false to this auto size property. So now, as you can see, we can actually change the size of this label, right? I can actually increase or decrease the size, the width or the height of this label, right? And I can also select this label, and inside this property section, I can search for the size property here, and I can easily assign values for the width and the height of this label. And now, let's assign a text to this label, right? So let's actually find the text attribute, the text property of this label. So select this label, and here inside this property section, this is the text property. So for the text, just type in here, this is my first C# app, and then press on enter key on your keyboard. So now, as you can see, this text is actually a little ugly. So let's increase the font of this text. So now, inside, select this label, and here let's actually search for the font property. So here we have this font property, and let's actually open this font. Let's expand this font property here. So as you can see, we can actually change the font attribute here. We can actually, let's scroll down top here. So I can change the font attribute. So I can actually search for another font, for example, this one, or for example, I can choose this one, or as you can see, I can actually click on this little button here. And now, as you can see, let's actually wait a little bit here. So here we have this font window. So here I can, for example, change for one of these fonts, or I can search for a specific font here. So here for the font, Microsoft actually suggests that we actually use a Sego UI. So let's actually search for Sego and choose this one, Sego UI. And you can actually, for example, for the font style, you can choose bold. And for the font size, I can actually choose, for example, 28. And then click on OK. So as you can see, the font is actually really large. So we need to actually increase the width of this label in order to see the font, the actual text of this label. So now here is our value inside our label, right? So for example, let's actually again change this font. So again, click on this font here, and then click on this button here. And here, as you can see, for example, I want to choose this font here, right? And then if I actually click on OK here, you can see that the font is changed. Or for example, I can choose another font, or here, for example, this one. Let's click on OK. You can see the font is changed, but sometimes it's gonna actually show you an error. So you can see that I actually changed the font here. So sometimes it's gonna actually show you an error, and it's gonna tell you that the font is not supported. So that's a bug in Visual Studio, and it's better to always set your fonts in the code, okay? So I'll talk more about that later. So if you cannot actually change the font of your label, just know that this is actually a bug. But the font that actually Microsoft suggests is actually Sego UI. So choose this one, And for the style font style, choose bold.